We have pitchers traveling in many different directions right now. Let's break it down on Fantasy Baseball Today in 5. Welcome into FBT in 5 on Monday, July 3rd. I am Frank Samfeld, joined by Chris Towers, and take a look at 4 names, 4 pitchers that are on the rise after this weekend and with what they've been doing recently. Andrew Abbott, James Paxton, Bailey Ober, and Reed Detmers. Chris, all 4 of those had amazing starts this weekend. Anything that you'd like to add on any of those names?
Yeah, I mean, I just think Abbott deserves a little bit of an extended discussion just because, those first 3 starts where he didn't allow any runs, we kind of poo-pooed him a little bit. 12 strikeouts, 9 walks, and 16 innings in his first 3 starts. We weren't particularly excited despite the fact that he wasn't giving up any runs. And then his 4th start, he gave up 3 runs in 6 innings, but he got, I think, 10 strikeouts in that one. And our reaction was, this is more interesting than anything he did in the first 3. And that's been the case. It's been, I think, 5 earned runs over the last 3 starts. He's been very, very good, but especially 30 strikeouts, I think 4 walks in that span. In this one, 8 swinging strikes on the fastball, 8 on the changeup, 6 with the curveball, 3 with the sweeper. All of a sudden, it looks like he's got multiple swing and miss pitches. There are things to be concerned about in Andrew Abbott's profile. He's not going to sustain a 1.21 ERA, but even something like a 3.21 ERA could be tough for a guy who pitches half his games at Great American Ballpark with a 20% ground ball rate, which would be the lowest for any qualifying pitcher over the past 20 seasons. You just don't see guys give up that many fly balls. Fly balls turn into home runs. That's the concern. But everything else he's doing looks really, really good. So I do think Andrew Abbott moving forward, a legitimately above average pitcher. If you're going to sell high on him, I think you got to get a top 30 guy. You got to get someone with real upside. Logan Gilbert, Tyler Glasnow were a couple of names that we mentioned on the full episode. That's the kind of place in the rankings you need to be looking for if you're trading Abbott, because otherwise I think he's probably a top 50 pitcher moving forward.
Yep, and I love the swinging strikes that we've seen recently from Abbott, 12-plus swinging strikes in each of his past 3 starts, culminating this last start with 25 swinging strikes this weekend. So a great start, and just love to see the whiffs recently for Andrew Abbott. 2 names that are going in the opposite direction. Luis Severino hit hard once again at the Cardinals this weekend. He gave up 9 runs over 4 innings pitched. 7 of those were earned. And Taj Bradley, who has now allowed 11 earned runs over his last 2 starts. Chris, what do we do with these 2? Do we just sit them for now? Do you consider dropping either one? What do you think?
I think I'd probably be more willing to drop Bradley because we haven't seen the sustained success from him. I think there's a lot to like about him. He's clearly skilled, but it's a work in progress, right? The last 2 starts, I think he's given up 11 earned runs. The 2 starts before that, it was 3 earned runs with 19 strikeouts. So there's clearly upside, but he just hasn't figured out, whether it's hasn't figured out how to pitch or what the right pitch mix is. He's someone who didn't pitch until his senior year of high school. I was reading this week, and he's made a lot of tinkering over the past couple of years to become the pitcher he is. He's very young. And so it might just be a situation where he's clearly not a finished product. And once he is, he'll be very, very good. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Rays sent him down. We've already seen them do that once with him. And then with Severino, because he's still throwing hard, the velocity's right where it was last season. I do think that there's room, there's a path for him to figure it out, but it's got to come from the slider and cutter. Right now, that's 2 straight starts where I don't think he's had a single whiff with either of those pitches. He only threw them, I think, 15 times combined in this start. He just clearly has no feel and no confidence in the slider and cutter. Last season, those were his 2 best swing and miss pitches. He was getting whiffs 40% of the time that opposing batters swung at them. Those are massive numbers. And right now, it's 22% with his slider and 9% with his cutter. Those pitches have just collapsed. And until he shows signs that he's figured it out with those 2 pitches, I don't think you can start. You certainly can't start him. I wowould try to hold on to him, though.
That is Luis Severino. Do not start this week at home against the Baltimore Orioles.
Yeah.
And same thing with Taj Bradley. He is facing the Atlanta Braves, who are arguably the best team in baseball right now. So definitely stay away from Taj Bradley there. Some quick news and notes from the weekend. Shane McClanahan was pulled again on Friday with back tightness and landed on the IL Saturday with no timetable to return. Corbin Carroll did not start in any of the 3 Diamondbacks games this weekend as he's dealing with that shoulder injury. He did appear as a pinch hitter Sunday, so maybe some optimism going into the week. Carlos Rodon threw 3 2/3 scoreless innings in his rehab outing on Saturday, and looks like he is ready to make his Yankee debut this Friday up against the Cubs. Chris, are you starting Carlos Rodon his first time out?
I would prefer not to. He only threw 58 pitches in his final rehab start, and that was the most that he had thrown. He hadn't topped 50 pitches before this. So I would think if you're looking at a ceiling, it's probably 80 pitches in this outing. That'd be a 22 pitch jump. And he could go 6, maybe 7 innings on 80 pitches. He's really, really good. It's just the likelier outcome is it's 4 or 5 innings. He struggles a little bit with, some rust, and it's not worth it. So I would try to stay away, but I have very high expectations for Carlos Rodon now that he's healthy overall.
And lastly, we did have a trade this weekend. The Rangers acquired Aroldis Chapman, but given how good Will Smith has been this year and his long history with Bruce Bochy, I expect him to be the closer for now. If he falters, obviously Chapman is a very good replacement there, but my guess is Will Smith moving forward. For more extensive fantasy baseball coverage, listen to the Fantasy Baseball Today podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, the Audacy app, or anywhere else podcasts are found. Thanks for listening to Fantasy Baseball Today in 5, and we'll be back again tomorrow. Bye-bye.